August 11th, Jason Griffin.
All right. Just to be clear, because we're in Santa Monica, freshly roasted does not mean that I was just out in my car smoking a joint. I just want to make that totally clear. Okay, I'd like to start out tonight by asking everybody in the room to just do me a favor, please. I've never asked anyone, you guys to do this for me before, but I'd like everybody in the room to close their eyes for just a minute. Okay, picture a scenario. You're at your best friend's wedding. You've been selected as the best man or the maid of honor. So of course your job tonight is to give a toast. The vows have been exchanged. Everybody's sitting down for a nice dinner. Your moment to shine has come. You stand up from your seat. The room falls silent. Okay, open your eyes. A couple volunteers. Just name to me the first emotion that comes to your mind when you put yourself in that situation.
Happiness.
Very good. Anyone else?
Scared.
Okay, you're more like me. You're brave. I'm not sure why you're here. You've already got I've had to give a roast at a wedding before, and I know a number of people in here have or have them coming up, and it can be a little scary. The fact is that public speaking is widely reported to be people's #1 fear in the world. So tonight I thought I'd talk about why that is. Because it's not just enough to say that I'm scared of public speaking because public speaking is scary. Why are we really scared of it? What's the root cause of that fear? So in the interest of time, I had to narrow it down to a couple of fears that I think affect me the most, and probably a wide variety of people as well. So the first reaction to public speaking that I think causes us a lot of anxiety is a chemical reaction that happens in our brain, and it's literally our brain playing tricks on us. I'm sure you've all heard of the fight or flight response. Now this is a response that human beings evolved to deal with situations involving great danger. It causes a surge of adrenaline to fly through our body, and in the right situation and in moderate amounts, fight or flight is actually a good thing. The problem is that the primitive part of our brain in which this reaction occurs, it has a hard time telling the difference between a truly dangerous situation and one of Freddie's table topics questions. So as we prepare to speak, we have all of these things that we're worried about. Am I going to forget my lines? Am I going to effectively convey my message? Am I going to draw a blank? Am I going to appear nervous? And we start to worry about all of these things, and that in turn causes our fight or flight response to kick in. So the question is, how do we get past that? Well, just like any problem in the world, the first step to solving it is acknowledging that it exists. We have to recognize it. So as you're preparing to give your next speech, I want you to think about that. In the 10 or 15 minutes leading up to the speech, I know that's the hardest time for me. That's when the nerves really kick in. And you start to feel those telltale signs of fight or flight. Your palms maybe get a little sweaty. You feel butterflies in your stomach. You get nervous. This is all fight or flight. Your brain literally thinks that you're in a dangerous situation when in fact, you know that's not the case. So first, by recognizing that, we're better equipped to deal with it. You can, of course, take a few deep breaths, but the #1 way to get past this is naturally practice, repetition. Take every chance you can to speak in public, because the more times that we stand up and speak to a group and succeed in that endeavor, the less our brain affiliates that act with an act of danger. So the best way to get past it, hands down, is repetition and practice. Now the second thing I wanted to touch on tonight is an emotional reaction that a lot of us have to public speaking that's based on past experiences that we've had in our lives. I thought I'd relate a personal tale. For me, it was freshman year in college. There was a particular class, in fact a particular day, where I was called to speak in front of the class. And I had my first ever full-blown panic attack in front of a room full of people that I barely knew. I was short of breath, my heart felt like it was going to pound out of my chest, I could barely get a word out, felt like I was going to faint. Somehow I got through it, but it was a really horrific and shaking experience. One that I still remember vividly. And I still struggle with that. Now, maybe you've never had a panic attack in front of a room full of people, but we all have insecurities. Maybe you were teased when you were younger, or maybe English is your second language and you're self-conscious about the way you speak. Or it could be any one of a wide variety of things, but we're all insecure about things. And that tends to color the way that we think about public speaking, because when you stand up here in front of a room, you're putting yourself out there. So it's natural to worry a little bit. But again, the question is how do we get past that? Well, the first thing to realize is that you've got to put the consequences of that moment in perspective. I hate to sound trite, but it didn't kill me. It didn't. I'm still here. I survived. It was very embarrassing. And it's something that stuck with me, and it's always been something I've struggled with, but it didn't kill me. So how big of a deal could it really have been? So we need to put those consequences in perspective. And also, again, it gets back to repetition and practice. So the more we stand up here and the more we come to Toastmasters every week and stand up in front of the group and have positive experiences related to public speaking, the less our brains will associate that experience with those insecurities that we all carry around. So it's very, very important, again, for both of these to stress on repetition, because we have to get back in the saddle. We got to bounce back from those insecurities. So in conclusion, I'd like to just say that we've touched on a couple things tonight, but the main thing I wanted to drive home is that when you're getting ready to give a speech and you're sitting in your chair and you feel those butterflies in your stomach, that's because you're doing something important. You're pushing yourself. You're stepping out of your comfort zone. And there's people all over the world that are terrified of public speaking, so you're one step ahead of them simply by being here and doing it. I've heard great speakers say that anxiety never fully goes away, but they learn to accept it as part of the process. So next time you're preparing for a speech, just remember this simple saying: feel that fear and do it anyways. Thank you.